The damp chill of that late autumn night still clings to the very marrow of my bones. A few years hence, it was when the veil of normalcy was rent asunder, revealing the grotesque tapestry of horrors that lay beneath. My son, Alex, then a callow youth of 20, returned under the pall of an unholy hour borne by the seemingly stalwart James. I, having retired to my chamber, was roused by the ominous creak of the front door, a sound that, in retrospect, echoed the slow, inexorable opening of a tomb. I descended the stairs, my heart a leaden weight in my chest, to find James, that tall, unsettlingly robust young man, struggling to support Alex, who was in a state of advanced inebriation. His garments were disheveled, his eyes mere slits in a face flushed with a sickly hue, and his limbs moved with the clumsy, uncoordinated gait of a puppet manipulated by unseen, malevolent hands. "Sorry about this," James intoned, his voice a steady, almost unervingly calm drone. "Alex had a bit too much to drink." My maternal concern, a primal, gnawing fear, eclipsed any flicker of annoyance. "Let's get him to his room," I managed, my voice a strained whisper. Together we ascended the creaking staircase, the very wood seeming to groan under the weight of some unseen burden. Alex mumbled incoherently, his head lolling to the side like a broken doll's. We deposited him upon his bed, a sanctuary that would soon become a silent witness to our shared terror. I removed his sodden shoes and tucked him beneath the covers, a futile gesture against the encroaching darkness. James lingered for a moment, his eyes, dark and fathomless, fixed upon my son. "Thanks for bringing him home," I said, a wave of relief washing over me, though it was a relief tainted with an undercurrent of disquiet. "No problem," he replied, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing upon his lips. "I'll check on him tomorrow." With that he departed, leaving me alone with the oppressive silence and the unsettling image of his lingering gaze. I returned to my chamber, the night a restless, feverish dream haunted by the echo of his words. The following day, Alex awoke groggy but otherwise physically intact. He recalled little of the previous night, merely a hazy recollection of convivial company and an excess of spirits. Life resumed its mundane rhythm, and the incident faded into the background of our daily existence, a fleeting shadow in the bright light of normalcy. A year later, the veneer of that normalcy shattered, revealing the grotesque reality beneath. I was ensconced in the familiar ritual of the evening news when a breaking story seized my attention, a story that would forever alter the landscape of my waking nightmares. The reporter, standing before a nondescript hotel, spoke of a horrific crime, a brutal act that defied comprehension. "A young man was found dead in his hotel room earlier today," the reporter intoned, his voice a somber drone. "The victim, whose name has not yet been released, was reportedly checked into the hotel by a friend the previous night. Police are now searching for the friend, who is considered a suspect." A cold, clammy dread gripped my heart, a sensation akin to the touch of a spectral hand. The details, though scant, resonated with a chilling familiarity. I watched, my blood turning to ice, as the reporter continued. According to witnesses, the suspect was seen leaving the hotel early this morning. The police have released the sketch of the suspect. The screen displayed a crude rendering of a man, a face that bore an uncanny resemblance to James. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence that had descended upon the room. Could it be him? The very notion was an abyss of horror, a chasm into which my sanity threatened to plunge. I seized the telephone, my fingers trembling, and dialed Alex's number. He answered on the third ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Alex, turn on the news," I commanded, my voice strained and urgent. "There's something you need to see." A few minutes later, he called back, his voice now fully awake, a tremor of shock and disbelief running through it. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice a desperate plea. "I don't know," I replied, my mind a whirlwind of fear and confusion. "We need to call the police." And so we did. Detectives arrived, their faces grim and impassive, their questions probing and relentless. Alex recounted the events of that fateful night, the night James had brought him home, the night that now seemed like a prelude to a far greater horror. He spoke of their years of friendship, a bond now irrevocably tainted by the stench of betrayal. Days bled into weeks, the search for James a relentless, agonizing ordeal. The story dominated the news, the town a cauldron of fear and speculation. Each new detail, each revelation, deepened the abyss of horror into which we had been plunged. James, it transpired, had not merely indulged his friend's intoxication. He had orchestrated it, a prelude to a calculated act of unspeakable violence. The brutality of the crime, the sheer malevolence of his actions, was a wound that festered, refusing to heal. Alex, once a vibrant, carefree youth, retreated into himself, haunted by the specter of his former friend. He spent his days in his room, a self-imposed exile from a world that had become a grotesque mockery of normalcy. I tried to offer comfort, to offer words of solace, but they were hollow echoes in the face of such profound trauma. One night, weeks after the initial shock, Alex and I sat in the living room, the silence broken only by the rhythmic tick of the clock, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time. Alex stared at the floor, his face etched with a profound sorrow. "Mom," he began, his voice barely a whisper, "do you think I could have been next?" The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, a dark, unspoken fear that had haunted my own thoughts. "I don't know, Alex," I replied, my voice trembling. "But you're safe now, and that's what matters." Eventually, James was apprehended, his flight cut short in a neighboring state, his hiding place a dilapidated motel, a fitting sanctuary for a creature of such depravity. His capture brought a semblance of relief, but the scars he had inflicted ran deep, festering wounds that would never fully heal. The trial was a grotesque spectacle, a macabre theater of horrors, where the details of the crime were laid bare, each revelation afresh wound upon our already shattered psyches. James was convicted, sentenced to a lifetime of confinement, a fitting punishment for a soul so utterly devoid of humanity. But for Alex and me, life would never be the same. The fear of the betrayal, the knowledge that such darkness could reside within a face we had trusted, cast a long, suffocating shadow over our days. Alex struggled to rebuild his life, haunted by the specter of what might have been, by the knowledge that he had been so close to the abyss. Years have passed, yet the memories remain, vivid and visceral, like the lingering scent of decay. Alex has attempted to forge a new life, but there are moments, fleeting glimpses, when I see the pain in his eyes, a constant reminder of the nightmare we endured. The experience taught us a harsh, unforgiving lesson about trust, about the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most familiar faces. We still speak of that night, the night James brought Alex home, a stark reminder of how close we came to losing everything. And though we have tried to move forward, to leave the shadows behind, they remain, ever present, a constant, chilling reminder of the horrors that lie just beneath the thin veneer of normalcy.